And we are on. It's really interesting to do a kind of a live conversation, but then it's also being live streamed. So you got to almost have two persona going. But we're used to that.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody to this Afrovibes festival conversation, and of course here in the Balie. Not only, of course, the people that are here, but also the people watching the live stream. So hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jay Pather. I'm the artistic director of the Afrovibes Festival. And it's a performance and visual art festival, as you know, that, about art not just from the African continent, but also from the African diaspora. And very often the idea is, how do we create a space for this discourse, this conversation between us who come from the continent and the broader, not just the African diaspora, but also the Black diaspora in the Netherlands and in Europe, just to talk through those kinds of connections. And this year the theme is legacy, so there is a lot. And in the next hour, I will enter into this conversation about art activism, intergenerational debate, and legacy with speakers from different generations. Of course, I'm the youngest.
You would love to be the youngest.
I have great pleasure in presenting Anna Krul to start with us, a visual artist, poet, archivist, and activist. In the 1990s, I'm not aging you, right? In the 1990s, she was active in several LGBTQ plus and women's organizations, including Strange Fruit, of course, which is very renowned, the International Lesbian Network IS, and ZAMI, a group for Black, migrant, and refugee women. Her artistic work is very much interwoven with your activism and a questioning and searching for identity. Our special international guest from South Africa is Thandile Mbatsha, a performance artist, choreographic activist, which you will explain to us at some point. An educator, speaker, host, producer, model, and scholar based in Cape Town. They created the powerful performance I Am that we will be seeing this evening, and that was shown for the first time in the Netherlands yesterday. Jiwa Mravili is a Comorian Dutch multidisciplinary artist, Afro hair inspirator, fangirl, curator, and researcher based in Amsterdam. She's trained as a classical pianist, but works with different performance formats. On stage, they position themselves as a vulnerable storyteller who uses music, words, images, and the body to tell stories. So my first question to you, for us to kick off, we'll do a round of questions and then give you a chance to pick up on each other's remarks, and then throw it to our magnificent audience if they want to take us somewhere on other journeys. So we'll get to it straight away without going too much into the theme and all of that right now. So I just want you to, first of all, put us in this position where we understand your art and activism. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you bring those two together. Shall we start?
Okay. Okay, I've been born and adopted in the Netherlands. My heritage is Ghanaian and Dutch, and I've been adopted in a white family, and that causes frictions and questions. And when I was 90, I found out that there was a word for my feelings and my behavior, and that was homophile. And later, the word homosexual came into use. And there was another word, and that was gay. So in the Dutch language, there was a kind of need to come together under the umbrella of gay. So a long time, I thought the word lesbian, I thought it was very bourgeois, and I didn't recognize myself in. So I thought it was much more radical to name myself Zwarte Pot. So translated, that would be Black Dyke. And especially in white queer circles, I really had to stress my blackness, but in another way, as how people had defined it, like, oh, you're exotic, or the view was about hypersexuality. And when I addressed racism or just the xenophobia, they thought this, oh, that is not the issue because we're all gay. But of course, that is, in my experience, a typical Dutch thing. No, we're all equal. We love everybody. We're very tolerant. But what do you? How do you live with tolerance? And also, tolerance is very. Yeah, it is very thin veneer. When I studied, I gave myself more freedom to develop my, especially also my ethnic identity, because as an adopted child, I also experienced racism in the family, partly fueled by one of my heroes, who was a missionary in South Africa. So he thought that he knew about black people. In the time of growing up, there was a very strong anti-apartheid movement in the Netherlands. And that was not only about equal rights, but also about access to education. And here in the Netherlands, there were also a lot of people living in exile. I had luck to meet some queer people in the 90s, and one of them was Tania Leon. And she was also start organizing with other women, black women, women of color, and especially queer women. One of the initiatives was Sister Outsider. And through that network of black queer women, that is the word how we would define ourselves now, there was a lot of exchange, learning and unlearning. So when it's about African queerness in the diaspora, I had really the luck that in the context of the South African liberation movement, there was also a space to claim rights, let's say homosexual rights. That was a bit the words we used then. So this is a little bit.
That was a lot.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I hope you did. I would like to go into a little bit more detail on some of them, but yeah, let's hand over to Thandile next.
I am Thandile Mbatsha, ugxi umvambo la umanzini uyabase. Ndinguye nomzangwe uchayi unjana nontelelo uzongozi. I am Xhosa, socialized a Xhosa boy. That has really, feeds a lot into how I make work, how I make theater. Because of the expectations of a boy child, I am a firstborn to my parents. I'm a boy child. I was socialized a boy child. And my dad was actually in the after talk yesterday at the Mass Podium. Went into this a little bit that when I was born, they were very excited that, he has an heir. His bloodline is going to continue. Like it was all about that for them. So when you... In the Xhosa culture, when you're born a boy child, there is so much already on you that you have to live up to, that you have to realize. And I voluntarily, although it was expected of me, I voluntarily went through the initiation of a boy child into manhood in the Xhosa culture, because that is a part of who I am. And a lot of my work then does this thing of playing around with these tensions of being black, of being queer, of being gender non-conforming, of being raised in the Anglican Church and also a altar server. I grew up in a very spiritual and quite religious environment, and also very African, culturally, so imicimbi, that's like wow, gatherings where we do offerings, we slaughter, we brew beer, and there's a role there set out for me before I even was born, right? And my dad also says this, that I'm in the kitchen, I'm in the kraal. You'll find me in the car. You find me everywhere. So my work then does this thing of opening up all these contradictions, these identities that are on me. Some of them were put on me. Some of them I also held on to. Some of them I let go of. But they all exist in my body and in my memory. And this is what I am is also very much about. Memory work, undoing memories of being othered. I studied dance from when I was 14 at the National School of the Arts in Johannesburg. And we also, part of our subjects, we had, of course, music, history of Western history of art, anatomy, and music. I think I mentioned that already. But part of something I learned through the anatomy, studying anatomy of the body, is this thing called an engram, so muscle memory. We probably also remember this, or we might have heard of this, that like the body remembers, the body keeps score. So I take those memories or all these engrams that are in my body already, and I undo them on stage, live on stage with my parents, to build a new engram. And this is all to assert myself as African in my queerness. There's a very tired, boring, untrue trope that goes, queerness is un-African. We all know, hopefully, that is a huge lie. In fact, queerness is very much African. It was when we were colonized that the undoing of our queerness started happening, using the Bible, of course, and theft. Yeah. So we've lost a lot, and my work is to bring back those identities and own them, while they are very much contradictory. And it's a continuous thing that I do every day. I have to consciously remind myself that I'm a full human that deserves love, that deserves companionship, that deserves money, that deserves work, that deserves community and family. So it's a daily thing. So what you will see today is nowhere near what the process has been like, or the journey, right? You'll see like an hour long of a manifestation of years of trying to return back to self. Yeah. And through Jay and the ICA and the Mellon Foundation, I was speaking to Lauren about this morning over breakfast. Lauren Suko, I'm an artist as well from South Africa, who's here performing this during Afrovibes. We're talking about the value of time and space. We don't have the time. And the Mellon Foundation and the ICA gave me, and the NRF, National Research Fund, gave me a whole 2.5 years to not think about what I'm going to eat, where I'm living, so that I can do this work. We don't have the time and space and resources to do this work. Now we are having to undo centuries of theft on our bodies, on our memories, on our cultures, and still we don't have time because capitalism. So it is very important, like these residencies, through the masters that I did, and through your supervision as well, Jay, I was able to get that time. Actually, yeah, I was able to get that time that we don't have. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Jua, you want?
Yeah, I think the question was like, what brought us to this activism, right?
Right.
So for me, I'm a biracial person. I have a Dutch mother and I have a Comorian father. And I also grew up in a white family. And I find that important to mention because those two cultures have very early on, like I've always been very aware that there's been different expectations when it came to gender, when it came to relationships, and when it came to living life. Those were culturally different. And for me, so I'm 27 years old, and that means that when I was hitting puberty and finding out more about my sexuality, that was around the same time. I feel like I really grew up with in a certain time where this Western, like the sort of like the capitalization of gay culture was really at its highest. So I remember my first protest that I ever went to by myself was in 2013 when Putin was here in the Scheepvaartmuseum, and he had just passed his anti-LGBTQ law. And it was like really like a moment of coming together and showing that we, as the West, were superior, and we were better than this Putin and this Russia and this East and this South and pretty much everywhere else, because we were accepting of well, actually, like what it actually came down to was just white cishet men. Or cis gay men, sorry. So, but like I feel like I really grew up with that. When I was 10 years old, Obama became president. So I feel like I sort of grew up in this time. Like my puberty was in a time where I was really told like everything is going to get better when it comes to queer rights. And at the same time, when I was 18 and I just started college, that was 2016, and then Donald Trump was elected president. And so I've also seen like the other sort of like it turning and then also protesting while I was studying and then like speaking out against Zwarte Piet, speaking up for more inclusive material because I studied classical music at a conservatoire in Zwolle, which is famously a white place. So all those different things have really shaped my activism, and also in a family sense, like experiencing racism from white family, and also coming out quite early on. I think I told my Dutch parents that I was gay when I was 15 years old or something like that, which is quite young. But that didn't go that well. So that was interesting in relationship to that context. Exactly. Of, you know, us in Europe, we are superior because of our acceptance. And knowing that my father came from a very Muslim Muslim context, the Comoro Islands are very Muslim. That, and of course, like also being told that we are inclusive and the rest of the world is worse, is like this is the best place where you can be as a queer person. Of course, then I did not tell my father that I was gay, and I kept that hidden for a very long time until 2 years ago. And then I did tell him, and for me. Also, like this thing in the West that we have is like that gayness, queerness is an identity. It's not something that we do, it's something that we are, which means that if you don't say that it's something that you must know, and then that you are that forever. Because if you ever find out other feelings that you have, then you are not that anymore. Then you become something else. But that also means that if you do not tell the people around you what you are, then you are a liar. Then you are not a real person.
Yeah.
So that really mentally affected me as well, and still affects me. And then in the end, I did come out to my father 10 years after I did to my mother and stepfather. And that also didn't really go great. But then I was in the Comoro Islands this summer. I've been there for 2 months. And I had delayed going there because I was going there again. Like I had been there before, but I had delayed going there after my coming, like while I was sort of like after my coming out in the Netherlands, because I was afraid of like being there and then being found out that I was queer, and then, you know, where marriage culture is such a thing, and like, would I be safe if they found out, stuff like that. Anyway, so I came out to my dad this like 2 years ago, and I went to the Comoro Islands for 2 months this summer, and then we spent a lot of time together, and then we had a lot of conversations. And in the meantime, I'd already done a lot of research into the queer history of the Comoro Islands as well. You spoke of theft. There's actually one story that I would love to share. It's an article that was written in 1905 by a French doctor, Dr. Roux. And he had gone to Madagascar, and then he had met a person named Fatima. And this person had lost their partner, their husband, 10 years before that. And then after that, they had shaved their head and started wearing men's clothes. And this person had, and he described this in great detail, a wooden, I could just describe it as a strap-on. And he described it in great detail. And he also described how he tried to tell Fatima that this was a very shameful object to have, that would be better not to have it, and that he wanted to take it with him to France as an important ethnographic document. And Fatima did not want to give it. It was a very important object to Fatima. And in the end, this article describes how he, in the end, actually stole it from Fatima. And then, of course, like I started on this quest of French ethnographic musea to see if I could find this, if we could find this particular strap-on, or if there were others. And actually, there is a lot of dildos in ethnographic musea, but none of them are labeled as strap-ons. But I cannot imagine, like after reading that article, I cannot imagine that not any of them was actually used by queer people, or was actually used for pleasure. And also, it made me very angry because, like, this was a very physical example of how an object, a physical object, that reminded us of this history was stolen, and shame was put in place. And that now years and like a century later still like impacts the opportunities that I have with my father to have a conversation about queerness, because those objects are not there anymore. And the only stories and only physical remnants that I have are these ethnographic objects, not even objects actually, because they're not on display often, but articles.
The article.
So yes, so these past few years I've been on a quest to share these stories more and to actually make work about that. But I think that's how I ended up here in this table. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's always been. It's not interesting is not the right word. How the colonial project has been over the 400-500 years about dehumaning the
Yeah.
body, right? So how, in order to be able to steal and to consider one as stealable from and to
Yeah.
be less than, you have to construct, and it's kind of like, it's exactly what's happening in Gaza right now. How do you construct that human being as less than, as not quite a human, and it has been quite interesting how you take away sexuality. That
Yeah.
you can be everything else, but you can't be sexual beings. And
Yeah, but also an important element for that is also pleasure. So stigmatizing pleasure and stigmatizing love. I think that's actually like the first step that you have to take to dehumanize someone.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it's really interesting how we talk about it in such a wonderfully rich international kind of way in terms of, from Putin to KwaZulu-Natal. There are so many of these layers. But I would like to, just in terms of the next line of discussion, to try to think, because Nelson Mandela, of course, in his opening address to the nation in 1994, said there will be, he didn't have to say this, but he went all the way and said there would be no discrimination against race and culture and class and gender and sexual orientation. Yeah. So in that inaugural address, it was quite a thing in 1994 to be able to do that. So to a large extent, South Africa and pretty much in the rest of the world, the rights are enshrined. It's kind of like what we were talking. The human rights are enshrined in some kind of way. But then you have the reality, and then you have the reality of people's own sensibilities, also our communities, and by that I mean our own, the communities we come from, racially, culturally, but also the LGBTQ community itself, and that tension between where does one lie and feeling a sense of how does one work through that. So I just want us to, if you could just give us a sense of your immediate thoughts about that, but also the extent to which your art attempts to connect those tensions. Shall we?
Okay. I think I always love to draw and paint and write poetry. I didn't call it poetry, but it was, let's say, self-expression. And also try to find ways to name experiences what I could not address. And I think partly was that also to break silence about racism in the family, or actually families. And when I was 19, I became active, especially I met some other young queers, and we found each other as, in a way, victims of religion. We were active, or actually we wanted to hang out, and then it was in a kind of Youth for Christ context. So, and that was in itself was that homosocial, because the boys and the girls were not allowed to touch each other. But women or the girls among each other, or the boys among each other, that was okay. And we were all brothers and sisters in Jesus. So actually there were a lot of queer people, but we didn't name it. It was just that I found out later when I was 19, when some people also had been pushed to go to therapy, and especially conversion therapy. So some of our friends had been really damaged about it. So we want to challenge Youth for Christ, but also the churches who were supporting that activity. And so we had to do a lot of learning and unlearning because we also had internalized
Yeah.
Right.
a lot of religious shit. And some of us really wanted to be a good Christian, so they had to deal with all those images, and also you don't go to heaven. Some others say, no, I just want to unlearn all these things and just throw up my belief.
Right.
And I think from that time, and also because we really had to find words together, and also find words to challenge the Christian people, and especially the Christian bosses. So that could be, you know, a bishop, but also in the Protestant church, you have some leaders. I think because we were young and we were very angry, also because some of us had really, you know, had that pain of being locked up.
Yeah.
So that was our experience, and also a lot of grown-ups didn't believe us, or they say, "Oh, but now you know you are queer, so just throw up that belief system." But that was the start of my activism, and also I think part of my art was more exploring joy. You know, and how you say pleasure. Because I had one motor was my anger and rage, and sometimes really unspeakable. And especially when you are an activist and you have to promote some demands, you have to speak nicely.
Yes.
Proper Dutch.
Proper Dutch.
Correctly.
So you learn in becoming an activist, you also learn different skills. And sometimes I could use that as part of my identity, like an extra coat.
Yeah, it is quite interesting about Dutch in general, or you know, I mean that I've been here so many years, and I've also had that sense of because I come from a country where you say it as it is, you know, it's like, right.
Yeah.
It's like you're a mess.
You're a mess.
You're a mess.
Yeah,
Would you just
yeah,
get it together?
yeah.
Whereas in the Netherlands, you can't. And yet the most horrific things will be said extremely politely. And it's always fascinating. I was at a bar at the theatre, and I just wanted the wine not in a regular glass. I wanted it in a wine glass, and there was a wine glass over. They refused. Absolutely refused, but in a very, very cutting. No, this is the glass, and that, you know. But it's quite a, you know. So it's not. There isn't a. It's just that it's kind of navigating a different way of handling and working, because once you get past that, there is space, right? Well,
Yeah.
shall we just go over to you, Joe, and you tell us what spaces there are? Is there space
And how did you
to
conquer?
navigate?
How did you conquer? How did I conquer space? Oof. Oof. Well, yeah.
Tell us,
so
people.
like woman-ish,
Love that.
black-ish
I love that.
person who studied classical music, there was not that much space. This was the space. There was a lot of space as long as you shut the fuck up. And then, what I decided to do is I decided not to do that, which was scary because then I would lose that small bit of space that there was. But it did bring me people and community. So it brought me a lot of like-minded people. It brought me communities like the Need for Legacy, that is like a beautiful community of like artists of color, like performers of color, and and then also within that like a small a hub of musicians where we just sometimes just rant about like, hey, this happened, don't trust this person, work with this institution, stuff like that. It brought me that, which I would not have found had I tried to focus on that small bit of space that was there for me. So that's for me how I found another space. And then while being outside of that small pigeonhole, actually a lot of institutions started finding me. And then inviting me with like more space actually. And yeah, which is now I'm currently very blessed to be in a position where I can make my own productions and bring the people that I want. And I try to fight really hard for them to be respected as well. So in a professional sense, that's how I created space and found some space. But if I speak in a personal sense, I found a lot of space by trying to undo the harm that was done, trying to find out what it came from, where a lot of the shame that I had, where it came from, and try to find the anger, because I had suppressed a lot of the feelings. And trying to be in touch with anger, which is also something that as a person who's conditioned as a woman, like you're not supposed to deal with anger, and to reconnect with that anger, and see like who do I want to direct it to, and also what is harming me, and to actively do the things that I am very scared of, actively do the things that I am ashamed of.
Right.
That's currently what's opening a lot of space for me.
Yeah, Tanjali, you have no anger at all. You're such a nice person.
I have a lot of anger. I hate that I have to do this work. When it's not my fault that, like, I hate that now. South Africans, when people say, oh no, apartheid was then, you should be fine now. Honey, my body is still trying to figure out itself because of what you did. Like, at my 32 years of age, in 2025, we're still doing this work. And that's the thing about rights, policies, speaking specifically to our constitution, in South Africa being lauded as one of the most progressive and so on, there's social cultural work that needs to happen.
Yeah.
You can't have policies and rights alone. Advocacy needs to do this with policies, because it's one thing you have the right and so on, but then when the culture has not changed, then there's nothing for you, honestly. So that's what my work then wants to do.
Right.
My work constantly wants to do that. My work wants to say and declare that I am first a human being. I am Xhosa. I was raised a boy child. I am gender non-conforming. I am a Christian. I am an African spiritual practicer. I'm a spirituality practicer. I am spiritually gifted from my ancestral bloodline. All these things, and they will exist. They need to find space to exist in this one body. Speaking of space, for me, it's really, I have to start here, and then my home. I think I also came out when I was 15. And I've been, you can imagine, I said, when I came out, I said, I think I'm bi, mommy. Because my mom literally came and asked me, like, what? Because my friend and I, we were all in hostel. I was in Johannesburg, but my homeland is in Eastern Cape. So we would do the long holidays at our farm, and then on weekends we would do in Johannesburg and the East at his home. So we go to my home for September holidays, 2010. 9, I lie. I was 15, and my mom, a day before we leave, my mom calls me to her bedroom. She's like, what's happening with you and Matsimela? I said, nothing, mommy, nothing. She's like, no, I'm not. I don't mean that you guys are together, but what is happening Ngawe with you also? Because Matsimela, and I will always mention their name. We journeyed together in this thing of identity in our teenage years. And because we went to an art school, we could be very expressive. We had blonde hair, we had the nails. Sometimes we wore skirts to school. We really journeyed together. So obviously, like, I'm coming back home now, say 7 months after I left home, first year into the National School of the Arts, and I am super flamboyant, child. Like, my mom's like, girl, what's happening? Well, she didn't say girl then, but she's like, what's happening? So I'm like, so I said, I think I'm bi, mama. I think I'm bi. And I hate, I mean, I didn't know much then. I was very young and naive. I don't like that use of bisexuality as a gateway. It's a full identity in and of itself, right? But I did at the time because I thought it would be a softer blow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I've had to communicate to my mom and my sisters throughout, and it has to. So that's the thing. So I've come out, yes, but how do we facilitate a space of openness and constant communication with myself, about my identities, with my family, and then the broader community. The LGBTQIA+ community has a lot of work to still do ourselves. Somebody was tracing the history also. I think it was 2009 when there was a gay pride in Johannesburg, and there was a group of feminists, 1 in 9. They called themselves feminist lesbian women who really wanted to highlight the femicide that was happening, the corrective rape that was happening at the time, the very heightened in South Africa at the time. And there was a scuffle, there was a fight, you know, because the gays are like, hello, we're all dressed up, we are cute, we want to drink, you are raining on our parade. And the feminists and the women are like, but we are not safe. How do we reconcile these? So there's work, and I think the work is dialoguing. We need to talk about each other's struggles, because I don't know your struggles as much as we come from this umbrella. But this umbrella, it's a unifying umbrella, right? Yes, to the outside world, but inside we need to open ourselves up.
Yeah.
Right? Open the L up, open the B up, open the T up, open the gender non-conforming, because our experiences of these identities are very different. And then I'm not going to know what you're going through as a gay man or a lesbian woman or whatever if we don't have the conversation.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. We can be here for about 3 hours, but I think Melane's going to start giving me the signal. So I just want to quickly, because the theme of the festival is legacy this year, and in African philosophy, there is this, in many cultures, there is just one word that describes the past and the future. So it's the same thing, and that also implies an intergenerational dialogue, but also puts into question this thing about intergenerational and what does that mean. But just to stop into or dive into, what does that intergenerational dialogue mean to you in terms of people that you've traveled with in your past and what you see in any kind of future? Again, we'll start.
Okay.
Not.
I have had the privilege to work with a lot of black feminists, not only in the Netherlands, but also through a conference or a poetry weekend in Black Europe. And also within Strange Fruit, we were really with different backgrounds. And also becoming queer or becoming yourself was also one of the processes where we wanted to make space for. Within Strange Fruit, there is not that demand of coming out, because almost everybody thought it is what I do, what I feel, And I want to nurture it. And I also want to, have safe relationship. So everybody had to negotiate with the images and the demands from the community or from the parents.
Yeah.
Me, I had actually no community or different communities. In the Ghanaian community, the gender bending was not a good idea. And there were always cis men who could heal me. So after a few years, I thought, no, I don't want to fight here for just space to develop me being partly African. So my home is always somewhere underway. And on this moment, I try to, all the archives and all the experience I have with other Black queer people, we are collecting it and we are also opening up.
Right.
Because I think that our legacies and also the legacies we got from other Black people, African people, and there were also some African people, South African people, very involved in strange food. So we try to not only document it, but also to bring it out and to a new generation. Also, when you have different examples, it is also easier to identify beyond the idea, okay, I know what I am, and now I have to come out. Because I think come outs can happen also when you're 80 or when you move to another place. So I think coming out as a continuous process, but also a lot of people, they say, I don't come out because I don't feel the need to.
Well, that's quite a mantra.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to keep it a little bit short so we can just take a round of questions and then you can go and prepare. Jura?
So for me, like the intergenerational part, I would like to talk about something that I really noticed in the conversations with my dad this summer, is that and really noticed and still I also really want to share, is that there's like this certain idea of like what acceptance means, and that if we keep focusing like that, if we make the definition of acceptance of queerness or transness is you use the pronouns that I say you have to use. You have to say trans women are women. You have to say all these things. Then you exclude so much. Then you exclude so many people, and you miss out on so much history. Where, for example, like with what I noticed with my dad, for example, like he would really confuse she and he and all the things, because in his language, there's no word for it. And that for me also really made my relationship to sort of like this conversation about pronouns a lot different. And like for him, for example, like this idea for him of like people that transition medically, that's like something that's very extreme, or for example, but for him, like he has this memory and this knowledge about the Sarimbavi, which is a community of like trans feminine people in Madagascar. And where he knows that is a thing. So, and what I see around me now is a lot of, in the Netherlands, is like a lot of like Black queer people that are trying to go back, trying to ask like what was there before, and what was the beautiful things that we have from before, and going way before colonialism. And also just several generations before. And I feel like there's more conversations happening right now between generations. And I love that there's not just like what I grew up with, this idea of like, forget about the past, we're only moving forward, but also seeing like, what do we have before us? And taking that with us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Really, it is. Sorry. And I really just want to, I can't put it any better than that. For me, it really is about language. This thing, exactly what you said. We are so hung up really on the new language now that we really are closing our parents off, and they have this knowledge. It's been there before. There's a term for an intersex person in isiXhosa called italasi, right? And they now today it's almost derogatory. But what I'm getting at is that nothing is new. Nothing is new. We've existed before. We've been there before, and then we come now with our knowledge, our I hate to use the word woke knowledge, and we really close knowledges out. We close perspectives outside. We close memory out, because we are really hung up on like the semantics, really. Gandhi, but the memory should be enough, and my dad referring or my mom referring to an intersex person as italasi should not be. It's how they made sense of it. And that's not to say that we must not move forward and create new language, but let's not leave behind. Like, we need the older stuff. We need what was, because what we are is what was. Nothing is new. Even the choreo activist term, I found it in history while I was doing my undergrad. So it's not new, but people, every time I say I'm a choreographic activist, like, oh, not her like that. Oh, this look bad. But like, really, nothing is new, and we just need to honor that old or the knowledge that has been. Yeah.
I love that. What we are is what we were. So, are there any burning questions before? And we can have a round of questions for 5 minutes. From the audience, anything you want to ask any one of the panelists?
Oh, behind you.
There's one, and then Ketsu two. Mike, sorry. Mike. Okay. As I switch it on, or is it on?
Thank you. Just want to say what an amazing conversation, and I'm just so humbled and honored to be in community with you all. I'm visiting from the U.S., so as many of you probably know, there is a lot going on there. Specifically, I live in Washington, D.C., which there is certainly an attack on our civil rights. There is this concept around activism, right? And for the longest, I've always thought that activism was something that was very loud, very pronounced, very performative. And I'm starting to learn, at least in this conversation, that sometimes activism can be self-work, and it can be very introspective, and it can be quite silent. There's a woman by the name of Caroline Wanga, who is a DEI practitioner. And she says that activism, the future of activism, it is intrusive. There's no room for self-preservation, and true liberation is measured by how the least of us are doing, not the best of us. So no matter how well I'm doing, if the person next to me is not doing as well, then I'm going to have to really interrogate and question my definition of activism, and I'm going to have to really interrogate how I define liberation. I say all that, and I anchor the question in that. What is your call to action for people in the room? What say you to be an activist? This is what I would encourage you to do. What does activism look like?
So we're going to take the other question, and then you're going to answer both questions in 30 seconds.
Thank you. I'm really
Thank you
very,
so much
very touched and moved by all of you, in terms of what you shared with us. And there's so much to think about, so I thank you for that. My question was to go a little bit further with the past and the future. I think Jay also mentioned that in some languages it's the same word. And when you think about going into a pre-colonial time, to look into the past, where do we begin? How do we excavate that, and what would that look like in order to then use those tools for the future? Just any thoughts on that? Thank you.
And you've got 30 seconds to answer.
Yeah.
Do you want to start, Jura? Then we'll do it the other way around.
So your question about activism, also thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much and for being here. What I think activism, what it comes down to in its core is love and care. And this is something that sounds very happy clappy hippie, but that's what it does come down to. So, and that can be very practical. That can be breaking down like an institution, whatever. But that can also just be cooking for the people in your neighborhood, and those might actually be the things that they practically need the most.
Yeah.
Like sometimes what you need, what's more useful is just to have food than have the right to marry.
Right.
Yeah.
So really build a community, just the physical people around you, that are physically around you, and investing in that, in knowing your neighbors. Do you know your neighbors? Do you know what they need? And cooking for them or asking what they actually physically need, that can actually be way more radical than to walk in a march. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't walk in a march, but
Sure.
it's about love and care. So, yes.
Great. Thank you. Tandela?
Love and care, not being comfortable when the next person is in discomfort. What you said earlier about that if you're doing well and the next person's not doing well, so also asking, why am I doing well? What positions me in a way that to make sure I'm doing well? And then once those things you open those things up, you realize that you can do something practical. Asking people what they need. Yes. It's very important. Just ask people what they need. And your comfort must sometimes make you uncomfortable. Yeah.
The past and the pre-colonial past. That question, do you want to address that?
I really like that you name it love and care. Because I think also within, not only within the different liberation struggles, but also for just live the day, there is a lot of tension, and then love and care. And then I also mean self-love and care, and that sometimes also means rest. And then your comrades will say, hey, I miss you, I need you. But then say, no, because now I need to have space. I think that in itself is also very important. And I would love to see that communities are also more caring. And you're right. It can be very practical, but also caring and nurture stories from the past, or the artifacts, or maybe the dildos we maybe not even would recognize as that. It really reclaim the past, and I think then we need each other. We not only need the scholars, and we also need more than institutions opening up. It is also how do we do our research and how do we share it. And I think that especially people who are in the situation who can study this also need a lot of support, because how to survive the universities with a lot of language, what you have to adapt to, be able to read the stuff. Because I think also a lot of our histories has not been in that proper English in the books. When people has been treated as objects. But then we don't want to repeat the theft. So I think, a lot of, I hope for younger people that they also, when they go to study, that they really have an inspiring network to really go into the study and to survive the institution.
Great. I am so terribly sorry that we have to end here. Please, can you help me thank these amazing panelists? Thank you. And also just to say that, to thank the participation, because I do think that what you were also alluding to is the fact that, there was a time when this was just like a little debate, but people are being implicated in major ways in some of the most economically advanced countries. So that is a very odd combination. Yeah, so one would almost expect it in the middle of Uganda, perhaps a combination of economic depravity with a sense of morality that is shifting. But when it comes from the most economically and technologically advanced countries, that erasure that is so clearly happening must make us take that love and care into overdrive. Because what was being said by Black activists for all these years is coming to bear, because it is coloniality, and that level of prejudice is so ingrained, and that double oppression has put such psychic pressure on our emerging generations. So, thank you very much for bringing us to that moment, and for the contributions from both of you, so that we can, understand the how crucial this question is. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.